Wepner. Chuck, it's Tony and Bobby here in our Eastern Connecticut. How are you, Chuck?
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, guys. How you doing? I'm doing fine.
Good to hear you. And again, we appreciate your interest in coming on the show, Chuck. It's an honor to speak with you, and thanks for your cooperation.
Thank you so much, Chuck.
No problem, guys. It's my honor. Thank you very much for calling me.
Well, anytime. And, you know, we're fascinated by your entire life. We've been talking about it all week. First of all, Chuck, I'll make you feel good. I have a few friends that I told you were going to be on the show tonight who are big boxing fans. And just a couple of the notes that I got. From a guy named Pete, I went to high school, Chuck. He said, I worked with Chuck's brother 20 years ago in Jersey City, who was a real character. I used to love to watch Chuck fight. He left it all in the ring. You really had to fight for a long time to beat him. He just kept coming at you. That was from Pete. And his brother Dan then chimed in, Chuck, and said he had met Chuck a few times down on the Jersey Shore in Belmar and in Manasquan. He said he's a great guy, should be a great interview, and said make sure you bring your sense of humor. And then a guy named Michael Jameson chimed in, said he's an outstanding friend. And then Ann Amato, a former writer here in the Connecticut area, just said the real Rocky, cool guy. So hope that makes you feel good, Chuck.
Well, everything you said is absolutely true.
See.
I am a great interview. I am a cool guy. I am the real Rocky. I did hang out down the Jersey Shore in Manasquan and other places. I hung out there for about 10 years because I used to go down there with some of our go-go girls. A couple of friends of mine had clubs, and I used to bring them down there and party. We had great times down there from, I'd say, maybe the early 70s till the 80s. We had like a 10-year run. It was great.
Fantastic.
In your early days, Chuck, I was interested in knowing that you had played basketball for the PAL down in New Jersey when you were very young. So tell us about the other sports you were involved with before you got into boxing.
Were you a sports fan, Chuck?
Oh, yeah, all my life. I've been a Yankee fan since I was 9 years old. The first game I ever saw was on my mother's friend Gene Miskevich's round TV. That's how old that TV was. I was 9 years old, and Joe DiMaggio was playing center field, and I was a Yankee fan since then. I'm still a Yankee fan, and I've gone through the good times and the bad times. Luckily, a lot more good times. And this year was a great year for us because we got some real heavy-hitting kids and pretty good pitch, and I think we're going to make a run at it.
And there was a time, Chuck, when you were young, you had pondered your future, and it was either basically working as a longshoreman or going into the military. You chose the latter.
I went into the Corps. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old, and I spent 3 years in the Corps. I got discharged as a officer, 56 to 59. As a matter of fact, Saturday night I went to the Marine Corps and National Police dinner down in Atlantic City, and it was a great dinner. A lot of great friends of mine that were in the Corps, and a lot of friends of mine that are police officers, and we had a great time.
Tony, question for Chuck.
Chuck, I can't tell you what an honor it is, and I'm going to tell you how far I go back watching you. 1970, I saw you fight Sonny Liston in Jersey City, and to me, he was the meanest man that ever walked the face of the earth. And how'd you get the fight with Liston, and how tough was he? And tell us something about that.
I was an up-and-coming heavyweight, and I figured I'd take a shortcut. My manager did anyway, and we'd fight Sonny Liston, who had just lost the World Championship to Muhammad Ali. And I fought Liston. It was a 10-rounder in a garden, and unfortunately, I pressed him the whole fight, and that's not the way to fight Sonny Liston. This guy was the biggest puncher that I ever fought. I wound up with 71 stitches, a broken nose, and a broken left cheekbone. And the doctor stopped it with 1:23 to go in the 10th and final round, and it was a tough fight for me. Matter of fact, the referee wanted to stop at the end of the 9th round. He said, "You can't stay," and I said, Barney, feel it." I said, "I'm all right, Barney." He goes, "How many fingers do I have up?" And I said, "How many guesses do I get?" You're a real wise ass, Justy, but you know what? You got balls. You can go out for that. The doctor stopped it. You know, the doctor unfortunately didn't have the same guts as I did, and he got a little squeamish with 71 stitches, so he stopped the fight.
Wow. And Chuck, I wanted to ask you now. When you were fighting on the way up, you were working a job too, right? It wasn't like boxing was your only thing that you did.
No, I always worked the job. I never fought a full-time fight in my life except for the Muhammad Ali fight. Don King, who had joined our band, you might say, Band of Merry Men, and he became our promoter. And he got the fight for me and sent me away to camp for 7 weeks. I got in great shape, and even though I was a 40-1 underdog going into the fight, because I had trained for the first and only time in my career, I put up a real good fight.
And I remember going back to that, you had a very strong sense of victory, and everyone was like, oh, who is this guy? How could he possibly think this way? But I guess your manager at the time was Al Braverman. What were you guys thinking about?
Al Braverman, and I was ranked 8th in the world at the time. I was in the top 10 in the world, ranked 8th for 7th and 8th for 42 straight months, and in that era, that was the greatest era of the heavyweights. We had myself, Liston, Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Kenny Norton, all these guys were in the top 10 with me. That was a great era for the heavyweight division, and unfortunately, now we don't have, too many good heavyweights. It's the smaller guys that are the great fighters.
And Chuck, just for our fans at home, I mean, some of the more familiar fighters that Mr. Wepner has fought, Tony, Buster Mathis, George Foreman, you mentioned Liston, Joe Bugner, the English champion, Ernie Terrell, Muhammad Ali.
I beat Ernie Terrell for the NABA Heavyweight Championship of the World in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall. And they were going to name that title right after the fight and give it to me because I beat Terrell in a 12-round decision. But unfortunately, they protested it. We had a commissioner at the time who was a tennis pro, and she didn't know a left hook from a right cross. And she refused to sanction the title, and it took 5 years before Joe Walcott said, yeah, he won the fight in the ring, and he kissed the title. So, if you wait long enough, good things come around.
That's for sure.
That's for sure. And Chuck, the victory over Terrell probably set up the fight with Ali, and because of Terrell was a former champion, like he said, and
WBC champion of the world.
Yeah, and that led to the Ali fight in '75. And I read, Chuck, that I think the promoters put up close to $1.5 million, and you were guaranteed $100,000, and there was no question in your mind you were going to take that fight. Even though, of course, Ali was going to cash in, but it was the most money you had ever seen.
Oh, yeah, the most money by far. The most, other than that, was the two fights. One was against Andre the Giant. I got $40,000 in Shea Stadium. And the other one was against Antonio Inoki in Japan. I got $40,000. So, I had to fight wrestlers to make the big money. But that one fight with Ali, even though I didn't make millions of dollars, it proves that I belonged in there, just like you saw it was said in the movie. And, it's 40 years later, they're still talking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that fight, again, he lost in 15 rounds, TKO by Ali, but an amazing performance by Chuck because of just the guts that he had in that fight, and it's still talked about today. And of course, we talk about the inspiration for Rocky, et cetera, et cetera. But when you went into that fight, Chuck, did you have a strategy in the fight? Was it try to stay away? Was it try to knock him? What was your mindset as soon as you walked into that ring?
My mindset was always the same thing. I knew I wasn't the greatest fighter. I knew I was just a tough guy that could take a punch. I was always in great condition. I thought I could wear him down. If I kept pressing him, I thought maybe he'd look past me because he was such a big favorite. And I thought maybe I could catch up to him in the later rounds. As a matter of fact, when I dropped him in the ninth, I thought maybe he'd stay down. I hit him under the heart with a right hand, and went back to the corner. I said to my manager, Al Braverman, Al, start the car. We're going to the bank with millionaires. And Al said, Chuck, you better turn around. He's getting up, and he looks pissed off.
Yeah.
That was too bad because he picked it up. Drew Bondini Brown was screaming at him, get on this guy. This white man's kicking your ass.
Yeah.
He picked it up. He picked it up after that, and the last 6 rounds was a real war.
Yeah.
It sure was.
For certain.
Again, and as we talk to Chuck, we have various pictures at different times during his career on the TV screen, Tony.
Yeah, and Chuck, as far as Ali, the man...
The
Yeah.
greatest.
What kind of a relationship did you have with him?
I had a wonderful relationship. I loved the guy. He respected me, and he was always nice to me because we had gotten together 4 or 5 times since the fight. As a matter of fact, for his 70th birthday, a top rank, Bob Arum, flew us all down to Las Vegas for his birthday. Me, Chevalo, Foreman, Spink, all the guys that had fought him, and we celebrated his 70th birthday down there, and it was a great night. Even though he was sick and he was beginning to fail, it was my honor to go down there. And as soon as he passed away, my wife and I jumped in a car. We drove up to Kentucky for his funeral. I spent 3 days up there, and we sent the champ off the way he deserved to be sent off, big time.
Just what an incredible thing. Now, that fight, you were, I think, 10 seconds away from going the distance, and I went back
19,
and
19 seconds.
Right now, did Tony Perez give you a quick count there? I mean, as far as
I thought he might have waved it off too soon, but after I saw the film, even though it was only 19 seconds, and I would have liked to have finished it. I was pretty spent. That punch that knocked me down, that was the only time I was ever down in my career in 16 years. And over 147 fights, amateur and pro. That includes my alley fights, my fights in bars, telephone booths, men's rooms. I was really good in men's rooms. Because it was a small area. And as a matter of fact, one time in Staten Island, I hit a guy while he was taking a piss. The guy went down, and he was still laying on the ground pissing when he was out cold. That was what I was. I was a bar fighter, and like I said before, not a great fighter, just a tough guy, and always in shape. And that's why, at the age of 78 years old, I'm okay psychologically, where a lot of my contemporaries are either dead or very sick.
Yeah, we could understand that. And as far as you being in shape and the whole boxing, the training involved, Chuck, did you like the training as far as the gym time? Did you like it, or did you just want to get out there and fight instead of spending the time in the gym?
I didn't mind. I liked it till later on in my career because I fought until I was almost 41. So when I got, in the late 30s, it was hard work, But like I said before, I knew you had to be in shape and you had to train hard. And I used to wake up in the morning, run at like 5:36 in the morning, come home, take a shower, work all day, go to the gym at night. And when I went to camp for the Muhammad Ali fight, that was a real luxury. I loved it. I spent 7 weeks up there, and it was maybe the best 7 weeks of my life. It was great. You had great sparring partners. You had the hotel to yourself, your own dining room, people there every day taking pictures and all, and it really helped to psych me up and fight a real good fight that night.
And Chuck, many of the people I've talked to, again, since we found out you were going to be joining us, as soon as I mentioned your name, the Ali fight, of course, came to mind. And, of course, they came right out and said, the Bayonne Bleeder. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, they do follow boxing. And I was wondering, when did you first, who coined that nickname on you, and was it something that you embraced over the years?
It was a guy named Rosie Rosenberg, who was the editor of the Bayonne Times, my hometown paper. The night I fought Liston. So it's like I said, I got 71 stitches, and every time Liston hit me with a good left hook, and Liston was the greatest knockout puncher of all time. And the blood would just spray all over the people at ringside, and it got all over Rosie Rosenberg's tan leisure suit. And Rosie said, Christ's sake, they don't call this damn guy the Bayonne Bleeder. And that's the night that the name was born. And
wow.
I didn't mind it too much. I think it's a lot better to be a fighter that people can associate with a name. It keeps it, a little fresher. And they were going to call a movie they just recently made about me, The Bleeder. And when it was sold to the International Film Group, they paid a lot of money for it. They said, you know what, we'd rather have it called Chuck. So the movie's out now. It's been out about a month. It's doing very well, and it's called Chuck, with Liev Schreiber, starring Liev Schreiber, Naomi Watts, Madeline Morse. I mean, it's like 5 or 6 big named actors in the movie, and it's a good movie, very good.
Chuck, you mentioned the power of Sonny Liston. This was you fought him shortly after George Foreman. Foreman was fresh out of the Olympics.
Yes.
And to this day, Chuck, you still think Liston was a harder hitter than Foreman?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, Liston had been champion of the world, and Ali beat him twice in a row to take the title off him, knocked him out the second time. I fought him the next fight, and he had the highest knockout percentage of any heavyweight in history. And he was a big-time puncher. George was I fought George when he was young.
Right.
And he was a wild, swinging kid then. And I think he was a much better fight when he came back the second time and knocked out Michael Moorer to win back the title. And George was a powerful puncher, but you saw the fight with Ali. Ali caught most of the punches on his arms.
Right.
And he let Foreman tire himself out. And then he knocked out George. He hit him with a punch that might not have knocked him out earlier, but because Sonny was so tired, George was so tired that the punch knocked him out. And Ali just outsmarted him. That's why Ali was great. He was not only a brilliant guy in the ring, but he was a great, great fighter.
Again, we've been honored to be talking to former heavyweight Chuck Wepner. Tony?
And Chuck, you know, during your career, was Al your only manager? Did you have others? And how do you feel about how your managers treated you?
Al Braverman, I loved Al Braverman. You know, we had a deal, Al Braverman. He said, I'm the general, and you're my soldier. That's good, Al, but just remember something. Once the bell rings, I'm out there fighting. You can do all the screaming you want. I asked one time, Al, describe yourself, Al, for the newspapers. He says, I'm a fat Jew. He said, that's exactly. They're just a tough, fat Jew. And you know what? In them days, the Jews ran a lot of things. They still do, you know that. I worked for a company called Allied, and it's all Jewish guys, and we have a great relationship. I'll be there 50 years in the business in February.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's what I've been doing. I've been selling liquor for 50 years. And Al had no dreams about who he was or what he was, but I'll tell you what, something about Al Braverman. Besides being a terrific manager, he wasn't a terrific trainer because he didn't spend that much time doing that, but he was the greatest cut man. And he saved quite a few fights for me because he knew how to stop cuts.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, was Al, did he start in the liquor company? Is that where you met him?
No, Al Braverman goes back into the late 40s and 50s as a trainer. He had known people from Las Vegas, and the story is that he was hooked up with some of them early on. And then when the fight started moving from places like Las Vegas eastward up towards New York and everything else, Al just moves up with it. And even though he lived down there for a few years, he came up to New York, and he was into the antique business. And he had a big antique shop in New York. And he started training fighters down in Las Vegas, and he just carried that up here. And he was with a guy named Gary Garafola, who was my manager. He was partners with Gary, and when Gary went to the joint for 25 to life, I don't know if you remember Frank DePaula, the fighter they said was killed up here, was shot in an alley.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, with the story.
Yeah, well, they more or less insinuated that Gary did that. Gary was his manager also. We were all in the same stable. And Gary went away, and Al started managing me, and that's when I really started moving out, moving up in the fight ranks. Al had a lot of connections, and he put me in the right fights. I fought in the Garden 6 times. That's the most of anybody that ever fought in the Garden, except for Emil Griffith. He fought 7 times. So I fought in the Felt Forum, which was under the Garden, the Undergarden 3 times, and I fought in the Main Garden 3 times. So I was lucky. I fought in a place that was recognized in them days and still is as the citadel of boxing.
Yeah, no doubt.
You must have felt incredibly good, Chuck, when fighting locally. I know you did a lot of fights in Jersey, but coming to New York and having the people from Jersey there, you must have been very proud of your upbringing and the fans that actually followed your career.
Oh, I was. As a matter of fact, I won the New York and East Coast Nationals in 1965 in the Garden. I won the heavyweight division championship there in the Garden. to that day, up until that time, I was the only man ever to win it, and I'm still the only man from the state of New Jersey ever to win the New York and East Coast Nationals. That was in 1965. I won 5 in a row, and I had never been a fighter. I just got out of the Marine Corps a few years, and like I said, I was a street fighter, and they put me in, and I just out-conditioned guys. I would wear them down. I had a strategy. I'd let them hit me for a couple of rounds, and then when they got tired, I'd knock them out. So it worked. I took a little bit of punishment. Like I said, 328 stitches over my eyes, 9 broken noses, and my left cheekbone. So, hey, what are you going to do? It's the way I fought. People liked it because they came to a fight to see a fighter, not a boxer.
Yeah,
Man,
that's for sure back in the day.
They saw you, that's for sure.
That's for sure. And, you know, it's widely known, Chuck, that Sylvester Stallone, after the Ali fight, he wrote the script for Rocky. And I know that there was, you know, some denial on his part. But, I mean, after that, I had seen pictures you took with Stallone. How was the relationship, and what happened after that?
The relationship great again. I'll tell you why. He, you know, after 30 years, he actually, after Rocky won the Academy Award, he wrote a part into Rocky II, Ching Weber, and he gave it to me. He wanted me to be in the movie. His exact words were, "Champ, you belong in the movie. You're my inspiration." I wrote a part in. I wanted to read for it, but I wasn't an actor. And the day I was supposed to go to Philadelphia and read for it, I was out on a 2-day bender with a friend of mine and a couple of young ladies, and I showed up in Philadelphia, and I didn't do well, and I didn't get the part. But 30 years later, after he was making a movie up here, right here in Weehawken, called Copland, we went up there, and he was on the set when I walked on the set, and he said, "Hold it, stop the cameras, my inspiration's here." And we were great friends, but, you know, we talked about some kind of a deal here with another movie. It didn't work out, and I had to wind up going to court, but it was all amicable. You know, we settled it, and we're good friends again. I love the guy. I think he's brilliant. And he's in my movie. He's in my movie, Chuck. There's a couple of real good scenes about him in there, and meeting me and having me read for the part. And then he actually made the movie Locked Up in Northern State Prison, where I spent a little bit of time on vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we have a few...
For me, it was a vacation because when you go to the joint, if you're a tough guy, you can do what you want to do. If you're not a tough guy, you're somebody's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was a tough guy, so they made me the coach of the boxing team and a few other things, and, you know, 2 years was nothing. It flew by, believe me.
When you think about it, Chuck, not too many guys were a champion in the military and then a champion in the joint. But I mean, so pretty impressive.
I wasn't a champion in the military. I had a couple of smokers. And my famous punch in the smokers in the Marine Corps was a headlock and an uppercut. And, you know, it was like a bar fight and in the ring.
Jeez.
And the referee all 3 times was my sergeant, Sergeant Cranston.
Wow.
And this guy here would let me do anything except kick somebody in the groin, you know. So I enjoyed those fights. They were company smokers, and, you know, there was no real referees or judges or anything. There was just one man, the guy in the ring with you, your sergeant, and it was fun. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. I was just at a big dinner, the National Marine Corps and Police Association dinner in Atlantic City Saturday night. Wow. We had 500 people there, mostly Marines, and a lot of troopers, because I'm friends with both of them. And that's 2 great organizations, the police and the Marine Corps, and they throw a big dinner every year down there, and it's a sellout, and I enjoyed it very much.
Well, we'll call you a champion among your peers in the Marine Corps.
All right, that's good enough. You know, I did win the Golden Gloves, the New Jersey Championship, the North American Championship when I beat Terrell, and the NABA Heavyweight Championship, which Willie Gilzenberg, who was an old-time promoter, then was going to make that fight for the National American Heavyweight Championship of the world. But the commissioner, like I say, who was a woman at the time, a tennis pro, you can believe that, she wouldn't recognize the title because they had protested it, and it took 5 years. But, hey, I wasn't going anywhere anyway. I was fighting my way up the rank to get a shot at Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. Tony?
And Chuck, you know, it's you were famous, and a lot came to you in a hurry, and it was, at least from what I read and from what I understood, kind of a tough burden to bear, and you might have gone down a couple of roads that maybe you wish you hadn't. What was that like, and what advice would you have for young people today?
You gotta. I'll tell you, you got to do what you're supposed to do. You know, you get to a point where after you fight Muhammad Ali, you go 15 rounds, they make the movie Rocky about you. You know, it's a little breathtaking, and sometimes you take shortcuts. And when you take shortcuts, you get yourself jammed up. You know, of course, I regretted getting myself in trouble and going to the joint and, you know, and stuff like that. But you know what? That was 30 years ago. And right now, without seeming like I'm blowing my own horn, I'm bigger than I ever was. And I'm very fortunate because, you know what? They will give you a second chance. People will give you a second chance. And if you make the most of it, you'll do all right. So I'm just telling kids to keep their nose clean and just do what they're supposed to do, and you'll stay out of trouble.
And Chuck, was there a brotherhood among the New Jersey-based boxers over the years? I mean, Tony and I remember Mike, the Jewish bomber, Mike Rossman, and Bobby Ches, and we used to watch
Jersey. They're all dear friends of mine. Mike now lives in Atlantic City.
Wow.
He's in the construction business, and I've been out with him a few times. He loves his nip beers. We've been out a few times. That's when I was drinking. I haven't drank now in 5 years. He was a terrific guy, and he still is a damn good guy. Bobby Ches has been my dear friend since I fought in Totowa. Bobby was a three-time world champion. Bobby's a great fighter, too.
Yeah, he was, and a very smart guy, Chuck. Wanted to be a doctor at one point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had a big gig with Showtime, and he was an announcer, and he was doing well, and unfortunately, he liked to drink a little bit, and he got himself jammed up a little bit and lost his job. But he's still doing well. I just saw him at a benefit out in Patterson about 4 months ago.
That's great to hear. And Tony and I remember, my goodness, watching on Channel 4 in New York. Chuck, we used to watch James Scott from the Rahway State Prison come out. I mean, those were the days, you know. It was great stuff.
Yeah, James Scott was a tough guy, and there was a lot of good guys came out of prison because in prison, all you can do is train and stay in shape. You can't really go wrong, and although there was some stuff going on, unfortunately, but you know, James trained hard, and he wound up coming out and doing quite well.
Tony, final question for Chuck.
And Chuck, I know you probably don't have many, but any regrets?
Oh, of course. There's always regrets in life, you know. I've been working, like I said, the same job. I make a terrific living. My wife is with me. She's in the same company. She does well. We drive new Lincolns every 2 years. We live in a beautiful condo. We go out and, you know, we have a good time. And we met great people throughout my career, and most of them are still my great friends. And it's a great life, I'll tell you. So we've been living large. I've been living large for over 40 years, and it's great. And the people out there, like I said before, will give you that second chance. And if you make the most of it, you'll have a great life. And I have had a great life.
Well, we're honored to have you tonight, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, Chuck, we can't thank you enough. It's just great to hear your voice. We hadn't had, you know, as good of experiences with former boxers for the reasons you already mentioned. It's a brutal sport, and we commend you for your actions and just the great stories, and we're so glad you're doing well. Please give our regards to your family, and please keep in touch.
And thank Linda. She was really sweet to us.
Guys, could you tell me the exact name of the show again? Because I keep records of everything. It's
Monday Night Sports Talk, and we'll have this interview up on YouTube pretty soon, Chuck.
And I'll be sure to send it to Linda, Chuck.
Yeah, please do that for me. But I'll give you her email, all right? Because, you know, I keep records of this because I do a lot of stuff, charity stuff, and I show a lot of this to the kids.
Oh, it'd be great. It would be great.
Oh, no, it would be an honor. I do have Linda's email address.
We will get that to her pretty soon, Chuck. Again, it's been an honor, and we will be in touch, sir.
God bless you, Chuck. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good night now, guys.
Good night. Take care.